Yo, what's going on, people? So I'm not gonna lie, the past week has probably been the most conflicting time in my entire adult gamer life. Have you guys ever been in such a state of blissful euphoria? You have so much excitement, adrenaline, and positive energy flowing through your veins that you want to bounce across the wall like you're doing flow motion straight out of Kingdom Hearts. And then you get hit with a swift kick in the ass, an extra serving at the breakfast table of reality, where you realize the old saying ends up reigning supreme. If it's too good to be true, then damn it, it is too good to be true. And what am I talking about? Oh, I think the recent Nintendo Direct Mini will address where I'm coming from. As you guys know, in that particular event, Nintendo unveiled a lot of new things, new games, third-party collaborations, but more importantly, we are getting more ports for the Nintendo Switch. Now, this isn't a video discussing whether or not the ports are relevant. I actually did an entire video to port or not to port. Actually, it's a trick question. Bring on the ports for Nintendo Switch. Give me the goddamn Fallout New Vegas port, Bethesda. Where is it? I need it now on Switch. But speaking of Bethesda, man, they're one of the reasons why I'm making this video. Them, in addition to our good friends over at Square Enix and Nintendo. What is going on with all of the full-price re-releases on Switch, man? Looking at the past games we've had for Switch, the first year alone, we've had Mario Kart DX, Pokken Tournament DX, Skyrim, Doom. We've had a couple of games released on Switch that are, for all intents and purposes, old as fuck. These are games that are 3, 4, 5, 6+ years old. And they're coming out again for full price. Now, when you're discussing games being re-released on newer systems, more often than not, whether they are sporting a new coat of paint, resolution, upgrades, new content, one thing is true across the board. For 95% of the re-releases, they release at budget prices. And there's a lot of reasons why developers do that. In most cases, they realize that the games are, well, old as fuck. They've run their course. But more specifically, they're trying to appeal to the newcomers, the people who didn't pick the games up when they first came out. So if they're seeing these games for cheaper prices, that might have them going like, okay, I didn't want to pick this up when it first came out, but it has all this new content and all these upgrades. Yeah, I might want to cop that. It's not going to break the bank. But Nintendo, on the other hand, bro, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is probably the biggest offense out of all the games they're porting to the Nintendo Switch. I understand that they're bringing out Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition as well, but what really pisses me off about Donkey Kong is that this game is not really adding any upgrades whatsoever to the original Wii U release. Let's be real here. A funky mode where you can play basically easy mode is not worth double dipping for this title. Couple that with the fact that the Switch really isn't that much more powerful than the Wii U, so it's not a night and day situation where you're going from some sub-HD games on PS3 running at 30 frames to full 1080p 60 frames on the PlayStation 4. The Wii U to Switch is not going to get that sort of an upgrade. So when you have a game like Donkey Kong that's re-releasing at full price, what's the incentive there? If this was a dual pack like Bayonetta 1 and 2 coming out on Switch, I could justify plopping $60, but as it stands, I'm not going to be buying Donkey Kong on release, and it pains me because from what I've seen, the game looks fantastic, but there's a line that has to be drawn from a consumer standpoint, being a gamer, where you just got to realize that just because the game exists on the system doesn't mean you need to support it day one. Especially since it's coming from a company like Nintendo, who unfortunately, and like I mentioned with both Mario Kart and Pokken, they're known to re-release their games at full price. Now listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know the cost that goes into porting some of these games and what they have to do, but let's be real about life for a second. It is nowhere near as strenuous as coming out with a new title. Ports, from what we've known from some of the developers in the industry, it's really not that much work at all. In most cases, they outsource it to other studios, and from what I read, one of the studios said it only takes like $1 million to port their game onto one platform. So if you're comparing that to coming out with a new release, why the fuck wouldn't you release the game at a cheaper price? You can make a heck of a lot more money if it's at that cheaper price that you wouldn't have to worry about, you know, it releasing at $60. But it's not just Donkey Kong. You have stuff like Hyrule Warriors as well. Yes, it comes with all the DLC that was on the 3DS version, but check this out, man. If you bought this game on Wii U, and you bought the Season Pass and all that DLC, and you bought it on 3DS because it had its exclusive content, and then you're buying it on the Switch so you can get the best of everything, that's almost $200 you're spending on this game. Same thing for Mario Kart as well. And while I am guilty in this situation, I did pick up Mario Kart DX on the Switch, or just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I felt that it was justified because not only did it have all the DLC, but it had the new battle mode. Granted, I felt the game should have released at $50, but it's Mario Kart, so you know you're going to get longevity out of it. So here's the thing, man. Even though I'm guilty with buying Mario Kart on Switch and Skyrim on Switch, I personally don't think there's really that big of a problem if the game actually has weight to it. I'm sorry, you're not getting Mario Kart level enjoyment out of something like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, and to a lesser extent, Hyrule Warriors. Now, you might be a fan of those games, you might be picking those games up for the first time, so for you, it doesn't really make a big deal. But as it stands, man, when we see other developers in the industry who are coming out with re-releases at cheaper prices, you remember back in the PS3 days, where they had these collections that released at $40. The Kingdom Hearts collection bundled 2 games and a cutscene theater for $40. Not that bad of a deal. Compare that to what Square Enix is doing now, and it pains me to bring this up because it affects one of my favorite games. The World Ends With You Final Remix is releasing at $60 on the Switch. Can we just talk about that for a second? A game that released on the DS for $40. When it got ported to the smartphones in 2012, we were all pitching a fit because it was, what, $17.99, 20 bucks? If you're comparing it to other games that existed on the Apple Store or whatever, yes, that is an insane price. But you kind of justified it considering it is a longer game than those titles. It is a more traditional game. It is an RPG. So yeah, you're going to get 30 to 40 hours of gameplay. But $60 in 2018, that is triple the price. And I'm being real with y'all, I love the game to death, but no extra scenario, epilogue, or Joy-Con controls is going to justify and warrant that price tag. So where do we draw the line as gamers? We want to be so excited for these games and these remasters, but we don't want to support these egregious business practices. That is the conundrum, that is the conflicted state that I am in right now because I'm so excited to play games like The World Ends With You again, but for $60, man, Square Enix, again, like Nintendo, they have history in this stuff. Look what they did with Kingdom Hearts 2.8. They brought one remaster and a 2-hour prologue, and they wanted to charge $60 for that stuff. Look what they did with Tomb Raider Definitive Edition and Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. $60 for games that really weren't that old. It's just, man, like, what do you do in these situations? Of course, the answer is to wait for a price drop, but I don't feel like we should be warrant waiting for a price drop for some of these games because we have other developers who are releasing games at these cheaper prices. I can't believe I'm using this company as an example, but look what Capcom did with the Resident Evil trilogy, the second wave of games, Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. On PlayStation 4 and X1, $19.99 on release, and you can get those games for as low as $8 on sale. Capcom showed you how it was done. They had all the DLC, they had some graphical upgrades, they did the bare minimum and it worked. Those games sold like hotcakes. In addition to that, they also put out the Resident Evil 0 game. That game sold like freaking hotcakes. Look at all the other developers out there who released their games. When Sega put out Valkyria Chronicles Remastered, it was only $29.99, and they went the extra mile to give you guys a steelbook on release. That was included at no additional charge. Then you have people like Bethesda and Square Enix and Nintendo who really don't put that much effort into their remasters as of late, and it's $60. Fuck it. People are going to buy it anyway. Like, we want to build up this vision that our games are just as good as newer titles. Come on now, seriously? Like, what's really killing me is that Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is going to share the same shelf space as actual competent HD re-releases like Shadow of the Colossus. That is getting a from the ground up new coat of paint for PlayStation 4. It looks so different by comparison to the PS2 game. And it's only $40 on release for that remake. Same thing for the Crash Insane trilogy. 3 games, $40, attracts a new audience of individuals. Yet Donkey Kong tropical damage control. That game is $60? Bruh, you're killing me here. You're killing me with this stuff. And like I said, this is the Nintendo thing to do. They've done it countless times. Look what they do on the Virtual Console and how many times you have to rebuy Super Mario Brothers. This company is so incompetent that they cannot fathom an account system where you can transfer your games from one system to another. You know, like Sony did with the PlayStation 3. If you buy a game there and it's a PS1 classic, you can play it on PSP and you can also play it on your PS Vita. But with Nintendo, it's like, no, you got to rebuy it for the 88th time, but this time we'll give you a 10% discount. That is what they wanted, right? So yeah, comment down below what you guys think about this situation. Me, myself, and I'm extremely conflicted because I want to support some of these games, but it sucks that Dark Souls Remastered, a game that has all the DLC and it's releasing for $39.99, is going to be on the same shelf as something like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze for $65. I can't, like, okay, if it was a JRPG that had 200 hours of gameplay, like Persona 5, I'll buy that on the Switch. If it was something like The Witcher 3, which is one of my most played games this generation, I will buy that on Switch at full price because it has the content worth it. A 2D freaking platformer is not going to have that amount of content. I'm just being real with y'all. Just being real. Anyway, from me to you for now, my name is NGS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.